Good evening. My name is Suzanne Lipkin.
And I'm Anne-Marie Van Russel.
We're from the Billy Rose Theater Division at the New York Public Library for the Performing Arts at Lincoln Center in New York City. As your TLA Book Awards Committee co-chairs, we will be your hosts for this evening's award ceremony.
So from our library to your screen, we are delighted to welcome you to this celebration of our community of writers, readers, publishers, archivists, and librarians. And this year, we are so pleased to have winners joining us from across the country.
After a few remarks by TLA President Diana King, we will have a presentation of the Louis Rackow Distinguished Service in Performing Arts Librarianship Award, which is TLA's professional award.
And then we'll turn to the main event, our book awards for titles published in 2022. The George Friedley Memorial Award honors outstanding books on live, theater, or performance, and the Richard Wall Memorial Award honors outstanding books on recorded or broadcast performance.
We want to recognize and thank our jurors for their exceptional work this year. Rachel Bauer, Kate Elswit, and Beth Cattleman for the Friedley Award, and David Pierce, Stephen Tropiano, and Kathy Fuller-Seeley for the Wall Award. Each juror read dozens of books to make their decisions, no small feat. We also want to give special thanks to our Book Awards Committee member, Amy Hunsaker, for reaching out to publishers and enabling us to receive so many titles this year.
So this year's winning titles cover groundbreaking topics across centuries of performance history through innovative and critical scholarship that is supported by the rich use of libraries and archives. Our winning books explore the international expansion of American movie theater culture, the rise of the film trade, newspaper, and magazine industry in early Hollywood, the techniques of impersonation used by white performers to represent Afro-diasporic people and the idea of Blackness in the 16th and 17th centuries, and the development and spread of method acting in the 20th century. As archivists, librarians, and scholars, our jurors were deeply impressed by the range and depth of sources these authors pursued to illuminate these otherwise untold histories.
And we hope you enjoy a taste of these sources as well, either as you tuned in tonight or following the speeches in the ceremony in our slideshow of archival materials related to the winning titles from the special collections of the New York Public Library for the Performing Arts.
And now we raise a virtual glass in celebration, and we invite TLA President Diana King to give a few remarks.
Cheers.
Hello, my name is Diana King, current president of the Theater Library Association, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the annual TLA Book Awards ceremony, celebrating award winners for outstanding English language works of scholarship on live and recorded performance that were published in 2022. I want to congratulate all of the talented authors, scholars, and professionals who were recipients of awards this year. Your work is crucial to the continued understanding, appreciation, and history of the performing arts. I also want to particularly thank the Book Awards Committee for all their hard work and long hours, reviewing the many deserving titles for selection. Co-chair Suzanne Lipkin and Anne-Marie Van Russel, along with committee member Amy Hunsaker. Friedley Award jurors Rachel E. Bauer, Kate Elswit, and Beth Cattleman. And Wall Award jurors Kathy Fuller-Seeley, David Pierce, and Stephen Tropiano. Thanks also to Drew Barker, chair of the Professional Awards Committee, with committee members Susan Brady, Jeannie Chen, Karen Nickerson, and Kevin Winkler. Finally, thank you as always to the New York Public Library for the Performing Arts for being instrumental to making this public program possible, and for sharing some of their many wonderful special collections holdings in a slideshow for this presentation. Now, please enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Karen Nickerson. I'm Curator Emerita of the Billy Rose Theater Division. Thank you for attending our awards ceremony this evening. It's customary for our organization to recognize professionals who make impressive strides in performing arts librarianship, but it's rare for us to valorize an individual who showed up to build access to a performing arts collection. It is my honor to introduce a stellar performing arts librarian, Dorothy Lordu. When Dorothy was recruited to the dance collection in 1968, the curator, Genevieve Oswald, had a vision of a world-class library. These two music librarians together recognized that there were no established standards for dance subject cataloging, not to mention that non-book cataloging rules were under construction, with AACR2 being invented in 1967. The chief cataloger's job was to build a structure acceptable to the international dance community that would encompass the scholarship of the entirety of dance history and practice. Dorothy was chief cataloger. Her mandate was to build a published book catalog through the new technology of automation. It would be indexed by author, title, subject, and subdivided by format. The dance collection, as it was called at the time, held books, but more substantially, it held programs, clippings, photographs, set and costume designs, historical prints, dance notation scores, oral histories, films, and videos. These required specialized description and form and genre coding while adhering to new and developing AACR2 and MARC conventions. The key challenge, though, was to establish a format that would identify a specific choreographic work. A model for this was the uniform title and music cataloging. Ms. Oswald and Dorothy designed consistent authority headings for each dance work that would co-locate each separate Nutcracker or Swan Lake according to its choreographers, composers, designers, first performance details. You can see these authority descriptions in the Library of Congress authority file headings. In 1974, G.K. Hall published the Dictionary Catalog of the Dance Collection in 10 volumes, 6,970 pages. Annual supplements were published equaling 5 times the original content. Later, microfiche compilations were produced, and finally, the first online catalog produced by the New York Public Library went live. With the help of the Dance Heritage Coalition, these cataloging conventions were regularized and adopted by those constituent libraries with holdings in dance. While Dorothy built a dance collection catalog, she also provided expert reference service in person and remotely, and served as acting curator in 1987. She trained and mentored dozens of performing arts librarians and coached coalition colleagues. After 32 years of creating bibliographic standards for dance scholarship, TLA is proud to honor Dorothy Lordu with the Louis Rackow Distinguished Service Award in Performing Arts Librarianship. Congratulations, Dorothy.
I was very surprised when I was told I would receive this award. I worked at the dance division, then the dance collection, for many years. And I went there in 1968. I was more or less recruited by Robert Dunn, and he had an opportunity to come to the dance collection to work as first assistant to Genevieve Oswald. And she took his recommendation and hired me. But I knew nothing about computers at that time. The library was just getting its feet wet and in computers. And our project seemed a good way to start. So we were the guinea pigs. And Genevieve wanted someone who could organize this project, and I was the guinea pig. And anyway, we went ahead, and in 1974, we were able to publish the catalog. G.K. Hall published it. And we learned so much about computers. I mean, they kept changing the system, upgrading it, and everything got more and more complicated. We continued working on the catalog over the years, and it gradually it merged into an online catalog. And it's not the same thing. And I sometimes feel that we lost a lot of information, but it's easier, I guess, for the public to use. Anyway, I had a wonderful time working with the staff. We had about 18 people at one time, and it was very exciting having all these people running around, coding and inputting and so on. And I really am very grateful for the opportunity that I had to work there. And I finally retired in 2000. And I've been doing other things since. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Tropiano.
My name is Catherine Fuller Seeley.
And my name is David Pierce. We are the judges for the 2022 Richard Wall Memorial Award, which honors exemplary work in the field of recorded performance.
We're pleased to announce the winner of this year's special jury prize, which goes to Eric Hoyt, Ink Stained Hollywood, The Triumph of America's Cinema Trade Press, published by University of California Press. The history of American cinema is told through its trade magazines, and Hoyt tells their story from 1915 through 1935. For this very active 20-year period, Hoyt focuses on the expansion in pages of coverage and advertising and how the journals avoided the consolidation that affected the industry they covered. While the film industry itself had many external enemies of taxation, censorship, and blue laws, the trade press put their energy into fighting each other so that each journal attracted advertising customized for its readership. What would at first appear to be an extremely dry topic is a compelling tale in Hoyt's groundbreaking account.
Hi, this is Eric Hoyt in Madison, Wisconsin. Thank you so much, Theater Library Association, for this huge honor of receiving the Special Jury Prize, the Richard Wall Memorial Award for my book, Ink Stained Hollywood, The Triumph of American Cinema's Trade Press. This is truly one of the great honors of my career. It means so much. It means so much also coming from the TLA, because it was the world of libraries and archives that made this book possible. And I'd like to recognize them, starting with New York Public Libraries, Library of the Performing Arts, where I got to do some great research. Also special collections research that was done at the Academy's Margaret Herrick Library, the University of Southern California, and Georgetown University's special collections played integral roles in this project. I was also able to find really great evidence using court archives. So thank you to our National Archives for everything that you do and everything you've kept, as well as the Los Angeles Superior Court and New York City's court for keeping the records from lawsuits, right? Like most of the trade papers that I've been researching and researched for this book, they didn't leave their papers to any library or special collections, but because they got sued and because they sued other people, it generated documentation that then was saved and I was able to utilize. The most important library and archive of all for this project was the Media History Digital Library, which I also had the privilege to be able to work on the development of. And it was really through the process of collaborating with that project's founder, David Pierce, and our many other collaborators. Is a big network and remains so. And going through and cataloging Motion Picture News and Film Daily, Variety, going through the scans, building search platforms for these sources we'd scan too, that just brought out a lot of the questions that I explored. Like how come there were so many trade papers covering one industry? How come certain trade papers seem very similar and distinctive and others different? And it was through that process of digitization and collection building that a lot of the curiosity for the project came about, but also the feeling that this could really contribute something, since right, it's really wonderful to have researchers out there running searches on Lantern and going through Media History Digital Library every single day. So I also want to just use this occasion to thank the people and the institutions that helped sustain me during the research and writing of Ink-Stained Hollywood. It took a number of years. So first of all, thank you to my employer, the University of Wisconsin-Madison. It's a wonderful place to work. Thank you to the Office of the Vice Chancellor of Research and Graduate Education for the funding and research grants that enabled me to travel to do work at those archives. Thank you to my department, Communication Arts, my colleagues in the faculty and staff. Thank you to the Wisconsin Center for Film and Theater Research, which I now have the privilege of directing, and to my colleagues there, Mira Hulsbeck and Amanda Smith. This was an incredible environment to be able to do this project. I'd also like to thank the larger community of scholars that I'm part of. I know that Hollywood history might seem like it's a well-trodden path, but there's always new things that we can be discovering, and it's so great to be part of that community. Thank you to my publisher and press, University of California Press, and especially my editor, Raina Polivka, who supported this project and helped it get to the finish line and to the point where you can read it today. And then finally, I'd like to thank my family. So thank you to my parents, Liz and Chris Hoyt. Thank you to my in-laws, Carl and Debbie Hagenmeyer. And thank you most of all to my wife and kids, to Emily and Arlie, Liam, and Esme. You gave me the time, and sometimes during hard times, during the pandemic, to finish this project, go over the copy edits. So thank you for that. And also thank you for all the times you interrupted me during the process to remind me what really matters most. All right. Thank you all. On with the show.
This year's first prize goes to Ross Melnick, Hollywood Embassies: How Movie Theaters Projected American Power Around the World, published by Columbia University Press. Ross Melnick tells the previously untold story of the expansion of American motion picture companies into exhibition overseas. This is more than a business story, as the American companies tried to spread American practices and popular culture to other continents with varying degrees of success. More than a business analysis, Melnick provides context to the attempts by the Americans, the different approaches used by each company, and how those efforts were received in each country or region. Prodigious research underpins a sprawling narrative. On behalf of the judges, we congratulate Ross Melnick.
I am deeply honored and humbled to accept the Richard Wall Memorial Award for Hollywood's Embassies. Thank you to the Theater Library Association, whose members make it possible for all of us to conduct this kind of expansive archival research, and to the members of the jury, Kathy Fuller-Seeley, David Pierce, and Stephen Tropiano, whose own work has been so foundational and influential on my own. Initial research on Hollywood's embassies began exactly 20 years ago this fall in a graduate seminar at UCLA led by the great film historian and archivist, Chris Horak. I was fascinated by press reports I had just discovered about MGM executives and Loews Theater personnel traveling from New York to Paris to upgrade cinemas for Gaumont. This led me to the Gaumont-Loews Metro Agreement of 1925 and Hollywood's growing investment in global film exhibition. It was a wonderful librarian then, Lisa Kernan of the UCLA Arts Library, who guided me to the first drawer of microfilm for the Bioscope, and then on to the Margaret Herrick Library for more. Over the next decade, I continued to work on and present this global research at conferences while completing my first monograph, American Showman, which was published in 2012, the same year I arrived at UC Santa Barbara. From then and until the pandemic shattered my final research plans in 2020, I traveled endlessly around the world to national libraries and archives and to both private and public collections. Back at home, I scoured a growing array of digitized newspapers and industry trade journals, both domestic and foreign. At each step, librarians, archivists, and curators made this book possible. From an initial analysis of MGM and Paramount cinemas in France and England, Hollywood's Embassies grew to encompass research on the exhibition operations of 4 Hollywood studios on 6 continents in 36 countries over 9 decades, from 1923 to 2013. The book ultimately covered Hollywood's exhibition expansion into Africa, Australasia, Asia, the Caribbean, Europe, Latin America, and the Middle East. Time does not permit me to thank everyone who assisted me, but I can tell you that this book took a global village and roughly 2 decades to complete. There is something deeply meaningful about being awarded by this body and its incredible jury. I am, after all, the son of a librarian and the nephew of another. My first summer job was reshelving books in the library, and it's a place, no matter where I am on this complicated planet, that always feels not like rows of manuscripts and computers, but of alchemy and discovery. My advice to my students, undergraduate and graduate, is to always meet and work with as many librarians as possible. They truly know more than anyone else and have mind mapped the meaning of their collections in ways online catalogs never could. They are the human resources of every book that I am honored to have been judged alongside for this award. To all the librarians, curators, archivists, and catalogers who assisted me around the world and across the United States, please allow me to express the gratitude of film and media scholars everywhere who could never survive without you. This book is a testament to your endless dedication, as Hollywood's Embassies only exists because of your labor. While on the subject of appreciation, I must thank Jennifer Crew, John Belton, and Philip Leventhal at Columbia University Press. Not every press would have hung in as this book grew rapidly in length, and from 4 initial countries to 12, then 24, and finally to 36 nations over a decade-long stretch of research and writing. Your support, encouragement, and professionalism made Hollywood's Embassies what it is. Thank you, Philip and John, for letting me regale you with new research at each of our annual lunch meetings at the SCMS conference. I would also like to thank the National Endowment for the Humanities for the tremendous fellowship they granted me to work on this book, and the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences for naming me an Academy Film Scholar and supporting this work as well. Alongside numerous grants from UC Santa Barbara and an earlier postdoctoral fellowship at Emory University, there were so many institutions that made this expansive work possible. Thank you as well to friends around the country and indeed around the world who listened, contributed, and supported me in this book over the past 2 decades. I am grateful as well to all of my colleagues at UC Santa Barbara who supported this project in all ways. I hope all of you know how much you mean to me and my work. Finally, I want to dedicate this award to my parents. Growing up, my brother and I watched our father, Ralph, publish a wide array of rich and important books, all while serving university, public, and other libraries. I still don't know how he did it all. This book is dedicated to him and my mother, Rachel, who always shared and inspired a love of history within me. Thank you both for this gift and for your endless support. You also can't write a book like this for 20 years without having the most amazing and the most amazingly patient partner. This book is equally dedicated to my wife, Noah, who went on this journey with me, sometimes quite literally, over the past 2 decades. For every draft you read, every eureka moment you cheered, and everything I missed to get this book completed, you have my endless love and appreciation. I want to thank the Theater Library Association once more and the amazing jury who awarded Hollywood's Embassies with the Richard Wall Memorial Award and who awarded my friend Eric Hoyt with a special jury prize for Ink-Stained Hollywood. Alongside the heralded list of previous winners, you have all honored me and this work with your acclaim. I am truly grateful.
Hello, I am Dr. Beth Cattleman, one of the jury members for the Theater Library Association's George Friedley Memorial Award. I am delighted to introduce this year's special jury prize winner. This award recognizes a book that the committee believes makes a unique contribution to English language works of scholarship on live performance. And this year, the award goes to Isaac Butler for his remarkable book, The Method: How the 20th Century Learned to Act. Butler's book chronicles the story of Konstantin Stanislavski's system of acting from its beginnings in Russia to its eventual dissemination throughout the world. The acting techniques fostered by Stanislavski and the resulting variations on them have changed the way performers studied and honed their craft from the early 20th century up to the present day. The committee was impressed with Butler's lively, readable writing style and the way he is able to bring disparate stories together to create a fascinating narrative. As one committee member noted, Butler really weaves together a complex transnational historical story that is meaningful and accessible. The broad audience appeal of Butler's book is, in fact, one aspect that really shines. This book will entertain those with all levels of experience and interest in performance, and will also be of interest to those who enjoy learning about cultural history. Readers not familiar with Stanislavski's ideas will find this an engaging introduction, and those interested in the various ways that theater actors have sought to create that elusive great performance will appreciate Butler's description of the method and the various ways it has been interpreted by artists throughout the decades. It's a great book for anyone who is interested in how ideas transfer from place to place and anyone who just likes a good story. This book uses archival records and primary sources to craft a remarkable story that can engage advanced scholars of theater while still remaining accessible to general audiences. In the method, Butler relates a multifaceted story that delves deeply into how acting happens, how ideas travel, how systems are challenged and revised, and how personalities and relationships have influenced our ongoing theatrical saga. He tells an in-depth story of the way in which the craft of acting has evolved, and along with it, how the American theater transformed and grew. The book is thorough, engaging, and unique. And one of the most delightful aspects is how Butler's love of theater is evident throughout. The Friedley jury believes the method makes a unique contribution to the history of theater and performance, and that's why I am delighted to present the special jury prize to Isaac Butler.
Hi, my name is Isaac Butler. I am the author of The Method, How the 20th Century Learned to Act, and I just wanted to take a moment to just really thank the Theater Library Association for this honor. It's incredibly gratifying because libraries were so vitally important to the writing of the method. I want to particularly single out the Ransom Center at UT Austin, the libraries at Penn State, the Performing Arts Library here in New York City, and of course the Library of Congress. All of these libraries and the people who work at them were just unbelievably helpful in making sure that I could tell this story accurately and excitingly, and really get in touch with what it was like to be there and experience the development of these ideas. This is especially true during the first few months of the pandemic, when I could not actually physically access the libraries. Being able to correspond with librarians and ask them for help or just advice or anything like that, just unbelievably important. You know, I'm working on my next book right now, and a few days ago I started making the list of the research libraries that I need to go to, and it was really exciting because I've gotten really addicted to, you know, filling out the form and getting those boxes from people's papers and going through them and never knowing what you're going to find, and suddenly you see just that perfect piece of information that unlocks the next step of the process. And none of that would be possible without everything that you do. So thank you so much. I want to take a brief moment to additionally thank a few other people, in particular my agent, the intrepid Aliyah Hannah Habib, and everyone at Gernert, my incredible editor and friend Ben Hyman, and everyone at Bloomsbury. I'm so excited to be working on my next book with them. And the publicist for this book, Emily Fishman, who really got it into everyone's hands, made sure people were talking about it, and is probably the reason why you heard about it and read it as well. I'd like to thank my family, my wife Ann Love, who's been my partner for over 15 years now and supports me every step of the way. And I love talking about my work with you. I love talking about your work. I love our life together, and our daughter, who's just an incredible inspiration to me, and my parents, Susan and Dixon Butler, and my mother-in-law, Patty Love, whom we lived with during the first year of the pandemic, and without whom this book would never have been finished, and you would never have been able to read it. So again, thank you all so much. I'm looking forward to visiting all of you over the next year as I work on my next book, and I just hope you have a wonderful evening. Thanks again.
Hello, I am honored to introduce the recipient of the 2022 George Friedley Memorial Award, Noemi Ndiaye, for Scripts of Blackness, Early Modern Performance Culture and the Making of Race, a part of the University of Pennsylvania Press's series, Race Before Race, Critical Race Studies of the Pre-Modern. This thought-provoking work has already made an impact on the study of early modern theater and our understanding of the construction of race. Delving into the pages of this monograph, we discover a profound exploration of how theater and performance culture contributed to the emergence of social hierarchies and power dynamics in a world driven by colonialism and capitalism. In this remarkable piece, Ndiaye navigates the realms of theater and performance, unveiling how early modern mass media played a pivotal role in shaping the concept of Blackness as a racial category. Her meticulous research takes us on a journey through the complexities of power and political agenda, examining the impact of theatrical elements such as Black Up, Black Speak, and Black dances in early modern Europe. These performance techniques, as detailed in the text, activated prejudices and led to the tragic abuse of Afro-diasporic people. What sets Scripts of Blackness apart is not only its academic rigor, but also the sheer magnitude of archival research that underpins its narrative. Ndiaye's masterful, comprehensive study of early modern England, Spain, and France unfolds the nuances, contradictions, and mutations of racial scripts through a diverse array of performing arts genres. As we celebrate the award today, let us recognize the profound impact of this work on our understanding of the historical interplay between performance culture and the making of race. Scripts of Blackness not only enriches our scholarly discourse, but also invites us to reflect on the power of the arts in shaping the narratives that define our shared humanity. Congratulations for your exemplary contribution to the scholarship of theater and performance. It is truly a deserved honor.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Noemi Ndiaye, and I am honored to receive the George Friedley Memorial Book Award for exemplary work in the field of live performance for Scripts of Blackness, Early Modern Performance Culture, and the Making of Race. I am excited and humbled to join a long list of theater and performance scholars whom I deeply admire, thinking Tracy Davis, Molly Schweitzer, Paul Scolari, Arnold Aronson, Marvin Carlson, and many more. It's an honor. The book explores the techniques of impersonation that were used by white performers to represent Afro-diasporic people in England, France, and Spain in the 16th and 17th centuries, using a comparative and transnational framework. What I'm doing in this book really is attempt to grasp the stories that Western Europeans told themselves through performative Blackness, and the effects of those fictions on early modern Afro-diasporic subjects. So really, Scripts of Blackness brings to the fore patterns of resemblance, difference, circulation that attest to the emergence of race-making as a simultaneously local, global, intercolonial European project in early modernity, but also attests to the centrality of performance culture as a medium for the dissemination of those patterns and new habits of mind. Just to say a few words about my research process and work in archives. Most of the English plays and materials I close read were available to me in a digitized form through a platform like Early English Books Online. That was not the case for French and Spanish materials. And I will say just a few words about the latter, in particular, the Spanish materials. I started, like everybody, by looking at the already existing scholarship on Blackness in early modern Spanish drama and performance. I'm thinking of a book like Jean Santorin's Séviller le Théâtre, for instance. And that book gave me a sense that contracts that were drafted between dancing masters and the city of Seville in early modernity would be useful to me. Those contracts were drafted on the occasion of Corpus Christi processions in particular, that included a lot of street performances, street dances, street theater. So I knew that it would be useful to look at them, but because Santourins was not interested in the question of Blackness specifically, I also knew that I needed to access the originals in order to look at information he had omitted. So I went to the Archivo Municipal, the city archives in Seville. I had also noticed in Santourins' book that a name recurred often, which was Hernando Rivera, a Black dance master, or I think he was Black. And I looked for him in particular in those city contracts, right, which gave me some information about him. At least it gave me his address, his addresses, and that gave me a sense of which parishes I had to go to if I wanted to track him and try and reconstruct his life and professional network, including a lot of other Black performers. So I went to the churches in question in order to track him. And what's quite amazing is that each of those churches has their own archives, and those archives are tended to by volunteers, members of the community who are doing it on their own time, uncompensated labor, just because they really deeply care about the past and about those materials. So they really opened the doors of their archives to me, and I'm very grateful for that. I also want to say that I believe in method, but I also believe in serendipity. Being in Seville, I was in the what was known in early modernity as the Black capital of Europe. So I was in a place where I knew that cultural concentration was strong enough for me to find something. I went to archives where I didn't know what I was going to find, but I knew I would find something related to the work that I was doing. I went in particular to the Archivo de Indias, which is the colonial archives for the Spanish Empire, the Biblioteca Colombina, which is the cathedral's archive, includes a lot of documents about Catholic celebration processions. And I also went to the private archives of the Black Confraternity of Seville, Los Negritos, where very useful materials indeed found their way to me through thorough word searches. So my methodological pitch is that I believe in a sound combination of method and serendipity in the archives. I also want to say that I was very fortunate to be able to complete that archival work during my graduate program, which means before the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has hindered so many fabulous archival projects, or at least slowed them down. So I remain grateful to Columbia University, where I completed my graduate training for that. In conclusion, I want to thank the Theater Library Association as well as this year's jurors. I know that reading for this type of award is exciting but very heavy work, and I am very grateful for your time and appreciation. Thank you.
So we hope you've enjoyed this evening of celebration. We are truly grateful for the opportunity to take this time to honor all our winners this evening and their achievements from this last year.
Thank you, as always, to our fellow staff at the New York Public Library for the Performing Arts who made this virtual ceremony possible, especially Kelsey Lapagard and Nick Karalexis. We encourage you to visit nypl.org to learn about other upcoming public programs.
Congratulations again to this year's winning authors. We really look forward to helping you with your future research.
You can visit the Theater Library Association online as well at tla-online.org. If you are not currently a member, please consider joining our community.
And now we'll wrap up the evening with a slideshow of select items from the New York Public Library for the Performing Arts special collections related to this year's winning titles. And we look forward to the coming year in Performing Arts Scholarship. And we thank you again for joining us at the annual TLA Book Awards.
Good night.
Good night.